Welcome to Just a Minute. Oh. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away once more, it's my pleasure to welcome our many listeners throughout the world, and of course to welcome to the programme this evening four delightful and clever exponents of this show. And seated on my right we have that very skilled and talented player of the game, Paul Merton, and seated behind him the very clever, witty lyricist and performer, Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and seated on my left we have the lovely, delightful actress Liza Tarbuck, and seated beside her we have that exuberant comedy performer Neill. Would you please welcome all four of them? As usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And seated beside me is Janet Staplehurst. She's going to help me with the score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Shaw Theatre, which is in the Bloomsbury area of northwest London. And we have a real Bloomsbury, or a blooming audience anywhere in front of us, who are dying for us to start. So we'll begin the show with Paul Merton. Paul, the subject in front of me is a rolling stone. Tell us something about a rolling stone in this game, starting now.
The pop group, the Rolling Stones, are very odd. They're all about 5'7". You don't realise how small they are until you see them apart, because when they're photographed together, you don't realise, of course, the scale. They all look the same. They could be 6...
Kit, you've challenged.
Awful to say realise twice so soon in the...
Oh, yes, probably.
Yes, there were two realisings, yes.
Yes. Well, I was shocked when I first saw them. They're like sort of little borrowers.
Oh, sweet. Hobbit people.
Yeah, little hobbit people.
They are less, their stature is less than average, isn't it?
You used to be one of their groupies, didn't you?
That's indeed I was, yes. In fact, I'll tell you this, their very first television show was in the programme I did with Arthur Haynes.
Yeah.
And none of them had washed. It was very interesting. They made a fetish of it, actually. Anyway, there are... Kit, you had a correct challenge, so you get a point for that. You take over the subject. There are 50 seconds available. A rolling stone starting now.
A rolling stone can gather no moss, proverbially, although a baby shamble can. And it's astonishing when you think of how Paleolithic these old men are. Sir Mick Jagger waggling his bus pass provocatively at us, singing, "I can't get no Sanatogen." I love Keith Richards, in particular, that waggish wit.
Paul, challenge.
Deviation. I don't think Mick Jagger's old enough for a bus pass yet. I don't think he's 65.
No, actually, you're right. He hasn't got his bus pass.
Oh, lordy. He'll get it
So
soon.
that's a correct challenge,
Well
Paul.
done, Paul.
And you have the subject back. You have 29 seconds. A rolling stone starting now.
When a poll is conducted amongst musicians, they often vote for Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone as being one of the best hit singles ever released. Who can forget those words? How does it feel? Beautiful. I think Perry Como's version perhaps was even better. When you look back at a Rolling Stone, you think to yourself, there was a magazine, 1968, came out in America, the year just of Woodstock and Ultimate... I don't know what I'm talking about now. Don't know what I'm talking about there.
I love the blind confidence with which you go on.
No, I feel better for getting it off my chest.
Yes. Kit, you challenged? Yes?
I'm sorry, the mod would start. I don't know what that was. It sounded like
Well,
a kitchen or something.
we interpret it as hesitation.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You've got the subject back again, Kit. You have 8 seconds available. Tell us something more about the Rolling Stone starting now.
Miraculously, Bill Wyman ended up as his own grandfather-in-law when he married the luscious, pouting man.
Chris, new challenge.
Was there a little hesitation there?
I don't think so.
No.
I think he went with a certain amount of aplomb. And
okay.
I wouldn't interpret it. But lovely to hear from you.
No, it's nice to be here.
But it was an interruption. It was an incorrect challenge. So, Kit, you have another point for that. You keep the subject still. You have 2 seconds available, starting now.
Keith Richards has no problems with drugs, just with the police.
Whoever is speaking in this game when the whistle goes gains an extra point on this occasion. It was Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and you won't be surprised to work out that he is, of course, in a strong lead at the end of the round. Neill, will you take the next round? The subject is interior decorating. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Some months ago, I had the words "and Diamond was here" tattooed on my stomach lining. And it looks lovely, although you don't often see it, apart from in a good light. Interior, oh no, that's a hesitation.
Chris, You've got to stop this habit
I
of when you
know,
make a
I
mistake,
know.
telling everybody.
I know,
'Cause if you keep going, they may not spot it.
I know.
Well, they might be jealous.
I know.
So, Lisa, you challenge first.
I did for the hesitation.
For hesitation.
But
You're
I was
absolutely
only
right.
actually after your thumb moved and gave me a clue.
Yeah, no, I buzzed myself and went, oh, Lisa.
So, Lisa, good to
My
hear
lord.
from you. You have the subject of interior decorating. There are 48 seconds available, starting now.
I've got a man in at the moment giving my rear a lick, and when he's finished doing that, he's going to move into the kitchen.
Chris, challenged.
It's a painting and decorating term.
It's not a painting and
It so
decorating
is.
term.
You got a point for an incorrect challenge. You've got 43 seconds, interior decorating, starting now.
I didn't buy textured paint, of course, so you can see all where I haven't scraped it back, and it looks a little bit tatty, but we will fill it with a very well-known product, which I won't mention. Inside, in the hall, controversially, I've gone for...
Paul,
Is
challenge.
the well-known product Heinz baked beans? Just intrigued what it's well. I mean, there've been many people at home taking sort of home handy tips, and if you're saying well-known product, it can be anything.
It would work, though, actually, texturally.
It wouldn't last long.
No.
And then, of course, you would want to have a good old lick, wouldn't you? Lisa gets the point because she was interrupted. She keeps the subject, interior decorating, 31 seconds, starting now.
Instead of painting the skirting boards white, I've done it.
Chris, challenge.
I'm sure we've had painting twice.
Yes, you did. You were painting
Oh,
before, my dear.
clearly.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, Chris, you got the subject back. You've got 28 seconds, interior decorating, starting now.
Recently, I've been reading the blog of model, tireless charity worker and natural-born beauty Jodie Marsh, and she's been working on having her house in Essex interiorly decorated, and she's avoided having scatter cushions and throws and things, and instead have opted for a stripper's pole. It makes a home, I think. And you can...
Lisa, you challenge first. 8 seconds. What was your challenge?
My challenge was hesitation, actually.
Yeah, I think it was a form of hesitation, yes. So you have 8 seconds more to tell us something about interior decorating, starting now.
I've papered outside areas, and in the rooms I've put a lick... Oh, do you know, I nearly said painting again, didn't
I
I?
think there was painting, there was repetition and hesitation.
Yeah.
Well, you can only
Yes,
have
we've
one,
painted.
but it doesn't matter. Both are
Full
right.
clutch.
4 seconds, interior decorating kit with you, starting now.
It's when Linda Barker starts talking in that awful voice that I want to open your thing.
So, Kit again was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, so he's increased his lead. Liza Tarbuck is in second place, followed by Paul Merton and Chris Neill. Kit, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is the London Eye. Tell us something about the London Eye, particularly for those visitors to this country. Tell us all about it. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
It sprang up quite suddenly, didn't it? This colossal erection on the South Bank in the Jubilee Gardens at about millennium time. Personally, I loathe it. It's a huge hit with tourists, but you get vertigo from staring down at the Houses of Parliament 500 feet below you. You can see Windsor Castle and Hackney Marshes, which induces agoraphobia. Claustrophobia from sharing your pod with 18 French students who've done nothing but eat anchovies and garlic for the last week, sleeping in a bed together. And it's staffed by the British Airways people, so you get air stewardesses screaming Lakme in a ghastly duet at you. The only time I ever went, thankfully, it was raining so tremendously hard one couldn't see a thing, so I squatted on the floor and played a very...
Chris, challenge.
I'm just stopping him in the nick of time.
So, what is your challenge within the rules of just a minute?
Was there repetition of armchair?
No, there were no armchairs there. No, I think he was keeping going amazingly well,
No, it
actually,
was- it was-
considering the
yeah.
boring subject. And that's another point to you, Kit.
Oh, thank
Keep
you.
the subject starting now.
And played a sterling round. Now I've hesitated.
And Chris, you challenge.
That was hesitation.
Chris, you had a correct challenge. You have the London Eye, and you have 15 seconds starting now.
I went on the London Eye once, and the guide, pointing north, rather proudly said, on a clear day, you can see St Albans. Lucky us! What a treat that was. I didn't go again. It's situated, as Kit said before, on the south bank of London town.
So Chris Neill was in speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's now equal in second place with Liza Tarbuck. They're 3 points behind Kit Hesketh-Harvey and 1 ahead of Paul Merton. And Paul, will you take the next round? The subject is why opposites attract. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
To understand ourselves, we must experience the opposite. Man, woman, talented, Nicholas Parsons. There's always a yin and a yang. For whatever we find in the universe, black or white, antipasta and the same stuff that I've mentioned before, if you bring the two together, there's an almighty explosion. That's what it's all about, opposites. How are we to experience what it is like to be in water unless we've walked around on dry land? How will we know how it feels to be...
Kit's challenged. No, Lisa challenged.
How are we?
Yes,
how are
two
we?
hours.
This is the major speech of my life.
34 seconds, Lisa. Tell us something about why opposites attract, starting now.
Why opposites attract, of course. I'm actually
Paul challenged.
So was that a track?
Yeah, it was.
It was not a track, it was a track, so
Track.
deviation.
Look, respect me, guy.
Why-
Don't ask me. I'll see you in McDonald
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to rub the street off me so I can really play the game.
Yeah.
So what are you challenging them for? Because you didn't say
Well,
attract.
she said a track, so it's deviation from English. She didn't say tract.
Not in Streatham, it isn't.
I think it's a bit mean so far.
Okay.
But you've got 31 seconds. Why opposites attract, starting now.
Jack Sprat, of course, could eat no fat.
Chris, yes.
Was that a hesitation?
It was a
Yeah,
hesitation,
yeah.
yes. So you got why opposites attract, Chris, and there are 29 seconds starting now.
Being 6'3", broad-shouldered and blonde, I find myself attracted to small, dark-haired people. Similarly, having 20 ditto vision, I often like people who wear glasses. And on it goes. Oh, no.
Kit challenged.
There was an error in that one.
There was a definite error in there,
It was all going
yes.
so well.
It was beautiful.
Yes, and the image you
Implausible,
were projecting via radio was
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, it's
You'll be
not a-
getting the letters, I'm sure,
I
after
hope
this.
so.
Yes. 14 seconds available now with you, Kit, on why opposites attract,
It's
starting now.
Darwinian, isn't it? The theory that you should spread your genes around, which is, incidentally, rather a good way of attracting opposites.
Paul, you challenge.
Slight
Yeah,
sort
well,
of hesitation there,
A
wasn't
slight
there?
hesitation,
Yeah,
yes.
just
So
in the middle of
benefit
all
of the doubt to you on that one, Paul. 7 seconds. Why opposites attract, starting now.
that. The hippopotamus and the mosquito. Lovers in nature. Who would guess it? When you see these two forms ambling towards you, you think...
So Paul Merton speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's now equal with Liza Tarbuck in second place behind Kit Hesketh-Harvey and 1 ahead of Chris Neill. And Kit, it's your turn to begin. The subject is over the hill. No, don't look at me like that, please. 60 seconds starting now.
Some might think it was a little derogatory or pejorative to give the subject to me, but I prefer to accentuate the positive. I feel like Julie Andrews as I crest the Alp and come down the other side, swinging around in my dirndl and running my fingers through my vaguely lesbian haircut. As I think all the trials of life are behind me, I am now like...
Chris challenge.
Deviation. Most lesbians aren't bald, are they?
Julie Andrews.
You may have an issue with lesbians, but that's very unfair.
Yes.
Julie Andrews looked a tiny bit dykey
Oh,
when
no,
she
she
played
looks
Sister
hugely
Maria.
dykey. Yeah, no.
That's got nothing to do with it, and you don't look anything like a lesbian, I must say, with your And
More than
I agree entirely with your
Yeah,
challenge.
thank you.
We're going no further, except with you, Chris, on 41, with 41 seconds available, over the hill, starting now.
Where I live in Camberwell, just over the hill, there's one of London's largest mental hospitals. How handy is that? What a boon! Fantastic. On the other side, there's not really a hill until, well, you cross the river, and then there's one sort of at Hampstead, and that leads up to Highgate, and then you go beyond that, and then I suppose there's Parsons. No, where's that place?
Kid, you challenge again.
Was that a hesitation? It wasn't really.
It was
kind of like a
hesitation.
sort of, I don't know.
He
It was
does
a rather fascinating gazetteer.
Kid, 24 seconds, over the hill, starting now.
Nicholas Parsons has paid off his mortgage, educated his children admirably. He sits there in the sere and yellow leaf of senescence, gently imbecilic, with a smile on his face as he dribbles into his rug.
Chris, you challenge.
Deviation, you're not over the hill.
Thank
Oh,
you,
no,
Chris.
hang on a second.
Hello.
Hang on a second.
But actually, I'm not dribbling, so that's most important. It is what he said. What's that? Chris, you have a correct challenge, over the hill, and there are 13 seconds starting now.
I think increasingly society looks at people younger, and that same word again, as being over the hill when they aren't that old.
No, Lisa again.
There's a light stagger there as he found
A stagger
the word.
which
A
I would
little
interpret
bit.
as hesitation, Lisa. So you
Also
tell us
was
something about
rubbish.
over the hill with 5 seconds to go starting now.
I'm not quite over the hill, but if I keep...
Chris
hello.
Charles.
Well, sorry, no, it's just really awful.
Can I have his
cheap
bonus
laugh.
point?
My bonus point.
I can't end my words.
Well, you get a point anyway for being interrupted. And so you were over the hill, 3 seconds to go. Lisa, starting now.
If I keep the momentum up of this week, by June I will be...
So they're all moving. Lisa Tarbuck, who's hasn't been with us for a while, but is doing extraordinarily well. She's only
Surge.
she's on a real surge here.
Oh, how exciting.
Yes, and only 2 points behind our leader, Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and 3 or 4 ahead of Paul Merton and Chris Neill. And Paul, your turn to begin. The subject is how to spot a Londoner. 60 seconds starting now.
Well, they're the ones who aren't wearing the tourist. I've just been to London and my girlfriend bought me this T-shirt sort of thing. The one time that I found myself actually the focus of attention from one of the gentlemen that runs these tatty little stores when, as a joke, I'd bought a hat that said, "I love London" written on it.
Kit, you've
Well,
challenged.
have we had I Love London twice?
No.
41 seconds, how to spot a Londoner, Paul, starting now.
It's that grim determination to get through the day that you spot in the true face of the Londoner. But how do you spot a true...
Lisa, challenge.
2 spots.
Yes, it's in the subject there, my love.
Yeah.
Is it?
You can repeat any word within a subject like that in this game.
Thank you,
So,
Uncle Nicholas.
so Paul was interrupted. and who's challenging? Kit, yes?
Well, there were 2 trues, actually.
It's too late now.
Oh, is it? Oh, sorry.
So, Paul, you carry on with 34 seconds to go on how to spot a Londoner starting now.
If you stand at the top...
Chris, challenge.
There were 2 trues earlier on.
Well, that is correct, but we're very unfair to give it to you now when Kit challenged for it first. No, I tell you what I do. I'll give you both a point.
Oh, that's very lovely.
And then and leave it with Paul, which it seems a fair way to do it. So you both got a point. Paul gets a... No, he doesn't get a point. He doesn't get a point for being interrupted. He keeps the subject. 32 seconds.
So am I to understand I'm the only person there who didn't get any points?
You were interrupted, so you should get a point.
Yeah, I
You're
should,
quite-
really.
Yes, that's right. 32 seconds. My God, how they fight for it, don't they? How to spot a Londoner. 32 seconds, Paul, starting now.
Atop the British Telecom tower with a bottle of ink, and just flick the pen as you do, and you will spot many a Londoner. But how can we spot a Londoner? We talk about people from Tooting and Hampstead. They're wildly different places, and the population are equally distant from each other.
Kit challenge.
Population is equally distant, isn't it? It's a singular word.
The population, yes, is equally distant. Yes, it's in
Yeah.
the singular.
Yeah.
So you're challenging him on grammar, are you?
I am. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's the way Paul always talks. I don't know.
I've got grade 4 English O-level to prove it.
Actually, I gave the benefit of the doubt to Paul last time, so I give it to you on
Oh,
this
that's very
occasion.
big of you.
I
Thank
think
you.
that's only fair and generous. So we
bend over backwards
We share it
sometimes,
around.
don't
14 seconds for you, Kit. How to spot a Londoner starting now.
Where I live, it's very...
Yes, Paul.
I'd like the benefit of the doubt. I think that could have been hesitation.
The benefit of the doubt on what basis?
Well, I think it was hesitation. Didn't get going fast
No.
enough.
There was no hesitation and no benefit available on that particular challenge.
Well, when there is benefits available, can you put a signal like do a little hand signal so we know when we challenge there is benefit? Because it seems there are benefits available on some challenges, others there are no benefits available. Yeah. Unclaimed benefits.
It's
Yeah.
an arbitrary matter which is interpreted according to the mood and actually the quality of the challenge.
Okay.
Right,
The
so-
mood of the challenge. Well, I should do it by candlelight or something.
Massage. And
Kit,
Hesitation.
you still have the subject.
Repetition.
You still have the subject, Kit. How to spot a Londoner, 13 seconds starting now.
Where I live in Norfolk, they're the ones in the Range Rovers and the Green Wellies, not the souped-up...
Paul Chalmers.
Well, I'm awfully sorry, but this is clearly deviation because we're talking about inhabitants of Norfolk, when actually we're talking, the subject is how to spot a Londoner.
I think it was a preamble into London.
Oh,
but,
do you really?
But Paul...
How interesting you should think
Paul... Paul, you're...
Oh, she's getting hissy.
I'm just playing around with the mood of my challenges. The next one will be Peter Lorre.
No.
You despise me, don't you?
I'm about to illustrate how fair and generous and
You
just
going
I
home?
am in all these times.
You're not going home, are you? You're going home.
Oh, gosh. Thank goodness I've got a sense of humour. I can laugh at myself. Right, but Paul, you have the benefit.
The only one missing the joke.
You have a definite benefit of the doubt on this one.
Oh, thank you.
And you have the subject. And you have the point for that. And you have 9 seconds on how to spot a Londoner starting now.
If we look at the A to Z of London, you can think to yourself, here is a fantastic guide to one of the greatest cities in the world. If you see a Londoner...
Lisa, challenge.
We had 2 if yous, actually, and I am being pedantic because I've got to be.
You haven't got to be.
No, I do at this point in the game, I
Yeah,
think.
right. All right, well, you're quite right. There were 2 if yous. So,
Yeah.
the mood's gone completely, hasn't it?
See, I've
And you've
that.
got in with 1 second to go.
Oh, awful.
I know. You've won no friends, but you've got the subject, and you have one...
So you're lonely, but you've got a point.
Yeah.
How
It's
to
a
spot
lovely
a Londoner,
place.
Lisa, starting now.
A dark playing beefeater.
Chris, challenge.
Hesitation.
No.
Oh, rubbish.
I think I should be given the benefit of the doubt, at least.
Oh, go on, give Chris a point. Lisa gets one for being challenged.
You know, sometimes in this game, I feel like I'm on a sunshine coach.
To Muswell Hill.
To Muswell Hill.
Right. Half a second, Lisa, starting now. Well, it's all very close still. Kit Hesketh-Harvey is still just in the lead, 2 ahead of Lisa Tarbuck, and Chris Neill and Paul Merton are equal in 3rd place. And Chris, we'd like you to take the next round. It's going to the library. Can you tell us something about going to the library, starting now?
I can only assume we've been given this subject because very next door...
Don't draw attention to it, Chris. You might get away with it. Paul, you challenge.
Acute self-awareness.
Hesitation, repetition, and deviation. Yes, all 3, actually, on that occasion.
Yes.
55 seconds. Tell us something about going to the library, Paul, starting now.
Something I remember very well from my childhood, going to Morden Library. It was a walk up a hill where hippos and mosquitoes kissed on the other side of the fence. And what a fantastic library it was, full of books, as you would expect, fiction, non-fiction, hardback, and the softer variety as well. But the record library was the bit that particularly fascinated me because you was able to borrow gramophone LPs, 33 1/3, and I remember actually getting out The Magic Christian, a film soundtrack which I hadn't seen the particular movie at that point, but what a fantastic piece of music associated with it. If you know the Paul McCartney song, Here It Is, Come and Get It, sung by Badfinger, it appears in that very thing that I was talking earlier, the entertainment where you go to a cinema and it's flickering away on the screen. Another song that's used in it is Thunderclap Newman's Something in the Air, and I absolutely adored those 2 pieces of music at the time. So when I eventually saw the motion picture appear on my television screen, I was fascinated to hear the notes coming across through my television, and I've said television 4 times and I've been speaking for 2 minutes, and I don't
A real tour de force. You get a point for speaking when the whistle should have gone, and another bonus point because you kept going so magnificently for another 20 seconds after the whistle. And I have to tell you that we're moving into the final round. So I'll give you the situation point-wise as we do that, because I know a lot of people put a lot of store by this. I don't think it really matters. Chris Neill.
It matters to us.
No, he doesn't. It's a contribution. It's good. I mean, there's Chris in 4th place, but great contribution. And Paul Merton and Lisa Tarbuck equal in 2nd place. Super contribution. Kit Hesketh-Harvey, slightly better contribution because he's in the lead. But only, not in quality, but just in points.
No, thank you. Absolutely not in quality.
Let's not start talking about quality on each individual panellist.
Right, no.
Get very depressing.
Lisa,
Yes.
would you like to take this round? It's a girl's best friend. 60 seconds starting now.
Traditionally, a girl's best friend might be viewed as a diamond. There's one called the Hope, which was a deep blue thing, but said to be hideously unlucky. And everyone who owned it, from Marie Antoinette and the Sun King, who is Louis XIV, I think, came to hideous ends.
Kit challenge.
I think we're too hideous.
It was too hideous,
I'm
yes.
so sorry.
It was
It's a word I love as well.
You see, it's cursed, the Hope Diamond. You shouldn't go there.
I shouldn't have mentioned it.
No. And, Kit, you've got in with 44 seconds to go to tell us something about a girl's best friend, starting now.
Men grow cold as girls grow old, and we all lose our charms in the end. But square, cut, or pear-shaped, these rocks don't lose their shape. I think it's a ridiculous...
Chris challenged.
Is it a repetition of shape?
Yeah, no, we should have been shaped. It was my fault for not doing the diction properly.
Yeah.
That's right, yes. So, Chris, you've got in on a girl's best friend with 35 seconds starting now.
I was reading an article in a magazine at the dentist the other day, and it said that a girl's current best friend is a thing called a rabbit. I don't know what that is, but apparently they're very popular and all the rage. Obviously, it's nice to have a hutch in the garden with something furry. Oh.
Paul challenged.
Overcome.
Overcome. Thought of that smelly hutch in the garden, and he overcame and hesitated.
Don't go there, no.
And you've got 21 seconds, Paul, on a girl's best friend starting now.
It's usually a girl's best friend is a mother, I believe. Of course, it's up to the individual girl whether that would be her best friend. Some women have very strange relationships with the women that brought them into this world, and others get along in a marvellously fantastic way, skipping down the lane. You can't guess that they're actually mother and daughter. They look like twins. How marvellous, and it's marvellous soap they use, actually.
Chris challenged.
So is that a repetition of Marvellous?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, yes. So, Chris, you got in with a marvellous there, with 2 seconds to go. A girl's best friend starting now.
These days...
Who challenged?
Oh,
Paul
hesitation. Wasn't that funny? Just at the last second there. You didn't think it'd be possible. Just a little hesitation.
No, there was no
Was there not?
hesitation. So you've got another point, Chris, and you've got 1.5 seconds on a girl's best friend starting now.
One of my best friends is a girl.
Well, what we can say for the final score, it's a very, very even contest. And in third place, equal, were Chris Neill and Lisa Tarbuck, and what a magnificent third place that was. Because they're only 1 point behind Paul Merton, and what a brilliant second place that was. But only 2 points ahead, so a superb first place, Kit Hesketh-Harvey. So we say, Kit, you're the winner this week. Thank you. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game, Paul Merton, Kit Hesketh-Harvey, Lisa Tarbuck and Chris Neill. I thank Janet Staplehurst, who's helped me keep the score magnificently and blown her whistle most magnificently. We thank our producer-director, who's Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game, and we're very grateful to this lovely audience here at the Shaw Theatre in Bloomsbury, who've cheered us on our way. From our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, on the panel, goodbye.